Welcome everyone to this Force Friday. We have completed our Force February month of character design, and we're now moving on. So again, congratulations to all of the winners, and congratulations for all of you that participated. I think it's, like I said last time, I think it takes some courage, and confidence to put yourself out there and be willing to go into the public eye and to learn, to have a critique off of that as well. So again, congratulations to all of you. Today we're going to talk about animals, specifically dogs. It's probably one of the animals that is most drawn in film and in animation, right? So we thought we would do a deep dive on this particular animal. In the midst of this, of course, we're going to be teaching you tools that you can use across all different types of animals as well, right? So I'll be covering a couple of the tricks, and then Swanley and Matunjay are going to finish us up today with more of the details on those specific tricks. So if you enjoy what we're putting up on this channel, then please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified, hit the bell. This way you don't have to track Fridays at 12:30 and allow YouTube to do that for you. And I guess that's it. So let's get to it, right? We know how fast these hours go by. So let's get on board with this. So the first thing I want to mention is, everything that we're teaching here, by the way, is in the Force Animal Drawing book. This is the 10th anniversary edition that you see here with the orange and blue cover. It is a 10th anniversary edition of an original that was done over 10 years ago. And the updates are, first of all, Matunjay and Swanley were able to get some drawings into this book. So that was awesome. It gave me an opportunity to get their work in there. Also, it's in color. The original book was only black and white. So similar to the anatomy book, I color coded the edges of the pages to help differentiate the different sections of the book. And the book is organized, which is very unique to the to how to draw animal books. It's organized by grade of animal. And what that means is there's three types of grades. There's plantigrade, which are mammals that walk flatly on their hands. Then there's digigrade, which are cats and dogs. They walk here on this digit, basically right here on the hand and on the feet. And then there's ungulates, which actually are walking on like the very tips of their toes, right? So, and the book goes through breaking down each one of those locomotive mammal types. And there's a couple of little extra things, and there's a couple of pages on stuff like birds, for instance, just to give you a sense of how to draw them as well. So if you're interested and you want the book, by the way, and you like what you see today, I put a link into the description that will take you to my publisher's website where you can buy the book. Yeah, so check it out. And like I said, it's full color. It's got a whole bunch of new drawings in it. If you have the original book, there's a ton of new artwork in it as well. So, we tried to make it worth the update. So let's talk about dogs and drawing dogs and just drawing animals in general. My epiphany in this book, what I'm probably most proud of for this Force Animal drawing book is, man, when I think back to trying to draw animals, it just seemed really complicated, and number one, I learned, there's these categories, right? Which is, as I just told you, how the chapters are broken down. But also in working on this book, I discovered there's an animal shape, a mammal shape that works across all mammals. So if you think about it like a car, it's like there's one chassis to the car, and then you can put on all different kind of body parts and different wheels, but the chassis is always the same. And I'd say that is my fondest discovery in writing that book and sharing it with the art community is, what, animal drawing does not have to be as complicated and difficult as maybe you thought it was in the beginning, right? So this animal shape, it starts like this. It starts with the idea of forces, as always, right? So there's a force over here, which is the pelvis. So the pelvis is sitting in here. And then it sweeps down into the rib cage, like so. Why does it do that? Well, it does that because, first of all, there's a lot of weight there, right? We're talking about the ribs and all the organs of the upper body. And also primarily here, by the way, is the pelvis, right? Primarily, it's also hanging there, and it literally is hanging. because one of the major differences between mammals and humans is that mammals, their scapula does not hook up to the rib cage. There's no hard skeletal connection there. So you'll see on cats and dogs, for instance, that like the scapula will peak past the edge of the body, right? You'll see actually the lump of it go up like that, and yet it can move all the way, down to here, right? So it can slide a lot. It slides up and down more than we can move our scapula, because our scapula is actually attached with ligaments to the structure of the rib cage, right? Because scapula hooks up to the clavicle, right? And then also our humerus is then attached to the scapula, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on in our shoulder that is separated in mammals and dogs specifically here, right? So that means all of this, the rib cage, all this weight is hanging down. Over here, we're pushing up because there's a pelvis, right? And the pelvis is attached to, the legs, right? So something like this, and it's pushing up, right? So here we have the strength of pushing up. Here we have this hanging, and then of course you do have, let's say the arms of something like a dog holding up that weight, but the weight here itself is hanging. And then last but not least, from here we go up the sternocleidomastoid muscle, and you sweep up to the back of the neck and head, like so. You get this nice rhythm in the sternocleidomastoid area of the neck and come over the top of the head. And most animals' skulls, by the way, are shaped like this. They're actually shaped with more of a curve over the top with the stronger bottom. And usually they have a cut in here, right? Because of where the nasal cavity is, like a dog's nose would actually come out here and you'd have the nose there. But the skeletal end of the nose is all the way back here, right? So it'll be like this, and then you'll have the teeth, right? And you'll have the lower jaw. And lower jaws are pretty small, right? So it'll be something like this, and you'll have like the eye socket, okay? So anyway, that works with this kind of rhythm, right? So we got 1, 2, and 3, right? 1, 2, 3, like so. So if we start to simplify that to shape, against curves, you have straights, right? So that'll give me a straight here. That'll give me a straight along the upper back, right? I have my curve here. I'm going to put a straight in the neck, and then I have a curve here, and I just put a straight there, right? So voila, we have a force animal shape. And that is malleable. This can be stretched and skewed to work as a giraffe or work as an armadillo, right? Like you can go across all the different grades of mammals and just play with proportion to get to any animal type. And then really all you're doing is changing out the legs, right? Like I said, the chassis is the same, and you're plugging on different legs, right? Because of the different grades, the plantigrade, digitigrade, unguligrade, okay? So what does that look like, right? So let's just bump this up here. We want to find the rhythm like we talked about. It leads us to this kind of shape. So here is the force animal shape, but with form, right? So just to be clear here, here's our forces, right? There's our 1, 2, 3 that we just talked about. We're pushing up into the hip. We're hanging down in the rib cage and pushing up into the top of the head, right? So we got our 1, 2, 3. Here's another example of it. You can see that also breaks down to these sort of 3 chunks of big shapes. You got the pelvis, you got the torso, and you have the head, just like you would in the human body, right? And you can see I called out here the 3 shapes. Number 1 is pushing up, number 2 is pushing down, number 3 is pushing up, right? So like I said, if you can draw well enough to get rhythm and fluidity, and you can draw structure, you know how to get structure out of things, right? Again, going back to this, you understand how to create volume, then you are like halfway down the road to drawing animals. Because after this, you just have to know some of the basic anatomy and understand how to put those different arms and legs on there. Which leads me to this. So talking about the book is structured through those different grades, and then in each grade, I cover numerous animals within that locomotive class, right? So here's a dog, and within the book, what you'll find is, hey, here's the front leg of the dog, and this is how it compares to human anatomy, and here's the back leg, and here's how it compares to human anatomy. So you get a sense of the comparison, right, of how that actually works, which I believe is really the best way to learn it, okay? All right, so that's we said there's gonna be 4 tricks today. Trick number 1 is this really big one, which is there is a generic force, animal slash form shape, right? Or form, I should say, that goes with all these different mammals, and playing with proportion, you can get to all the different mammal types, okay? Trick number 2 is something that's really important is you have to know once you get this chassis in space for yourself, is that you got to plant the feet. Now, this takes a little bit of perspective, right? I just noticed a question that caught my eye. So Panaboy said, a little off topic, but would this rhythm work with reptiles as well as Komodo dragon? Yes, it would. In fact, in the book, there's a drawing of a Komodo dragon. So yes, reptiles would work the same. I think they're typically plantigrade, if I'm not mistaken. I think they usually walk, very flat-handed and flat-footed, actually. So anyway, it's very important to be able to nail, this floating like animal structure down to the ground, right? So my point to this is the trick here is I would literally connect the dots, like be aware of what the shape is of the feet relative to one another when they hit the ground, right? So when I'm drawing figures, I'm still aware of that, right? Like let's just doodle out a body here, right? So if there's a figure here and I say, I want this leg to go here and I get this foot here, I do need to know like how that full, how the full figure is landing on the ground. This is a line that we bring up actually on the website all the time is, connect the dots here, connect the feet. So you get a sense of what the axis is between the two and the space, volume that the model occupies, right? So we want to do that with dogs as well. So what I thought I would do here for you is sketch each of these very quickly using like the force animal shape and just trying to put feet down on the ground. So notice here that I'm starting with 2. So he's kind of humanoidish, right? And I have to preface this, or I should have said this earlier. If we succeed today with the 3 of us teaching you, we will have changed the way you look at animals, and you'll never look at animals the same again, because you'll actually see them walking around as like little human beings on all 4 legs, which is a little weird. I got to tell you, it is a little weird. I have 2 dogs myself, and I definitely see them at times as like little humans based on like what they're doing. I'm like, that's really freaking weird that he's laying there like that. And it looks like human arms or legs, right? And it's from years of doing this. So let's start this out. So I see, I've got his rib cage, right? His rib cage is pushing out. Now let's grab black. Yeah, and sorry for the super high contrast lighting on me right now. I got a lot of sun from like almost a skylight really hitting me, which is only making it harder for me to see this in deep. But here's the chest, right? And the chest is going to move into the pelvis like this. And then this is going up into the dog's head, right? Where he's like this. Now I would start with that general shape, like I talked about for the head, and then I can come in and chop it out. Say, well, he's got a brow. Dogs have a brow, and then we get to the muzzle, right? So on. He has his jaw and all, right? But you can see he's going from his neck to his chest, right? Kind of thickish guy, right? And then we get, and I just put in the straight opposite there, and I could put a straight in here for this neck, right? And I get this shape down. Here's the curve for the pelvis. I'm going to put a straight over here, and then I get the arms and legs in there, right? And without making, I'm going to leave this to the other guys, but I'll give you one trick to be aware of with arms and legs on animals is whatever the angle is between the hip to the knee, you want to match that with the like foot, right? And maybe Swanley might talk about this later more, but like that's a great way of just remembering something, especially when you want to draw to your head that you get this this thing happening. Now this guy's leg over here is like very tightly in perspective. So we're going from knee to ankle to foot, right? Now I want that angle. You see, I want that perspective. So I'm going to try to get, this foot over here, right? Like so. So he's more like this. Got the center line. He's got his tail popping out. You'll notice over here, you could really use the scapula to like come in. And there is a center, they have a rib cage, right? A sternocleidomastoid muscles coming down here. So the scapula is like in here. It's not breaking the edge of his body, but it's in there. And then that's going from there. And if you start looking at his arms, it's like, Son of a gun, that kind of looks human, doesn't it? Right? So we're going from the shoulder, I'm getting over here to like his elbow and, to his wrist and hand. And, and then here is the same thing, right? And again, the other guys, I think will talk more about this, but I want you to see how I can use the force shape, use the grounding, get his arms and legs in here. And without talking, I could have done this in maybe like 30 seconds or so and gotten a quick gestural sketch of this dog, right? Let's go on to the next one. So here's a dog with 3 legs. Notice the shape, right? Notice the force shape. It's like he's got his hips. You'll see we go down here towards the crotch and we sweep into his chest, right? So it's going from here to here. And then we're going to come up and through to his neck, where I'm going through his arm, go to his head, right? I'm drawing him a little big here. All right, so we're going like this. We're getting up to here. I've got his head. I could start like shaping this out. Head's kind of biggish, right? And I can start with that straight to curve first. And then if I wanted to like notch down his the brow of his head and get, the rest of his face in there. I'm not going to go too much into structure and all, because again, these guys are going to handle that after me, but I want you to see how kind of fast and easy it is to start drawing an animal. If you understand, I got to get from here to here to here, right? Like there it is. And then again, I would throw on the arms and legs, right? It's like getting his legs in here. Notice again the angle from here to here, and notice, I can mimic that down here and get to his feet. I want to get the 4 feet in there, so I want to land 1 foot there as well, right? So he's like this. Actually, he's much closer. He's more like that. And then over here, we've got the shoulder. I use the shoulders a lot to really help me here in the front. His elbow is very tight to the body there. You can see it going into his wrist. Here's a slight perspective. Right, and then we're going to go down like this into his foot. I'm being very fast and crude here, but I would just want to make the point about positioning. Okay, so this is his going to his wrist and to his fingers basically, and there's our dog, right? Tailless. Let's give him a tail with maybe a little bit more force in it. Right, so I'm giving a little more arc. So that's number 2. Let's go to number 3, which is 4 legs, right? So now we got a 4-legged dog, right? You'll notice similar shape, right? Like, oh, son of a gun. These dogs, the shapes are pretty close, right? Now, dogs, of course, there's tons of different breeds that'll give you more variety, right? But in general, same thing, right? Same thing over and over again. Doesn't matter if I were sitting here drawing a lion today, I would be going through a lot of the same tactics, okay? Right, so I want to get this, I want to get the perspective, I want to get him on the ground. I'm being very fast and gestural here because, like I said, I'm going to let the other guys go into the details, but it's more like that. You can see his heel sticking out there and his knee sticking out here. So I'm hoping that at least you see how much more quickly this starts to happen if you have some kind of process, because you're aware of at least the general shape, that force animal shape, right? So again, I'm coming from here to here to here, right? Like so. All right, last but not least, I brought this one. Oh no, I have one more after this. So let's get rid of this guy. We got this guy. So really clear, right? Perspective, like he's in this box. You can see very simply on this guy that he's like that, right? It's kind of like he's a mix, right? It's like Dachshund and what is that, Rat Terrier? Kind of like my dog, but my dog's all brown. He's got a smaller little muzzle on him. But here's the force animal shape in a different body type. It's really long, so no big deal, right? I can stretch that out to get the shape to work here. Here's some of the form of it. All right, I get the head on there. We've got the neck coming up into the head, right, down to his muzzle. And then we've got his basic arms and legs, and very small and thick. The little guy, not the world's fastest runner. his little legs and his long body that he's got to carry, right? All right. And last but not least, I have one other dog I want to share with you guys. So I grabbed this one. Oh, gotta get the tail. Keep leaving those. My little dog, his name's Ditto. He doesn't have a tail, so I keep forgetting to put tails on these dogs. Last but not least is this one. So I grabbed this one because it's, look at the perspective, how shallow it is, right? It's like back legs are like this and the front legs are like this, right? Super, super tight perspective. And yet, you know, the force of this is still going to work. I can go from his hip. I think I'm going to stay on this side of his body. It feels like the force is going this way. So I'm going to go that side, come around over here to hit the bottom of his chest, right? And then come up his neck and head. So I have his body here. I have to figure out if I want to just continue this up the neck and head. It doesn't feel like that. It feels to me like he goes this way, right? Like he's kind of leaning like this into it. So I think I'm going to actually try to swirl around in here a little bit more, right? So he's like that. I'm not going to go into all this foreshortening and stuff because the other guys are going to work on it, but I want you to see that I can build out all this fluidity, you know, in space, and you know, and then deal with his legs, and landing that, you know, landing the positions down, right? I'm just trying to get all these located correctly. You know, here's his knee, right? So having to think about that in perspective is also tricky. This is really his calf, and that's getting down to his foot. And then his other one is about here, right? So that's my part of today. I want you to be aware of the mammal shape, right? And that you can use it across anything. If you can get your skill up well enough to get form and shape and fluidity going and you move to animals, it's not that hard. You know, it's actually not that hard to go in there and start drawing all different kinds of animals, right? No tail, I'll add a tail to this guy, right? And second piece is getting the anatomy down, right? Really trying to, as you're doing the fluidity stuff, really be aware of how the legs land to the ground. And I actually gave you a fifth trick today, which is when you're drawing arms and legs, be aware of the initial angle between, let's say, the pelvis to the knee, and the lower part is going to do that same thing, right? So be aware of that. All right, any other questions before I move on? Animal drawing is kind of overlooked by artists. Thank you for doing a tutorial on that. You're welcome. Which type of dog is each force instructor? That's a good question. And then I guess that's it. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to hand this over to Matunje. Let's see, I have to empower both of you. Let's see, co-host and co-host. All right, Matunje, it's all yours.
Righty. So can you see?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to be sharing how to take that animal, animal shape that Mike shared with you, and how to bring that into structure. So in the beginning, what you want to learn is, like how that forced animal shape actually works, which is basically, oh, we have a shape like this. So again, in 2D forms, it's like super easy to understand, but it's also like very, very important to visualize that in 3D, So that we're going to be doing, right now. So for example, the first trick that I'm sharing with you is this right there in front of your screen. Structure is in a box and exists inside a bigger box. Okay, so which means what we are actually doing is we are actually playing with all the three main volumes of the torso, which is basically the face, the rib cage, and the pelvis, right? I mean, with the torso and with the face. So basically, we have three volumes, right? Face, we have second as a rib cage, and third as a pelvis, right? So taking them in and then converting them into boxes, basically like this. Now, obviously, you need perspective, okay? because you will visualize them as boxes, but then you have to like put those three volumes, you know, in a bigger box, which means in a bigger perspective. So overall, all three of them would be arranged in a kind of space where they follow certain perspective. Okay, for example, a 2 point, a 3 point, or something like that, right? So converting them into boxes, and then it's a great way to enter into this 3D world, you know, where we start to visualize that animal shape into space, right? And then we can start to turn that shape into like all sorts of angles. Okay, we can get all those crazy angles. You know, you can draw the dogs or any animals, right? Right now, I'm just saying dogs just because for the sake of yeah, showing the tricks to draw dogs. But again, the animal shape is just the chassis, right? The main chassis, and then you can put any sort of animal within it. All you just need to know is the particular animal's protocols. It's like, oh, the horse has this hoof, and you know, it walks on the toad, right, or on the fingernails or something like that. So basically, you can take this trick and use this on any animal. Okay. So the first thing again, structure is in the box. Okay, which means that we visualize those three main volumes as boxes, and then we made a bigger box, right? We visualize those three forms in a bigger box to give it some sort of perspective, right? The second trick, right? So I'm going to be sharing just skimming through the tricks, and I'm sharing with you, and then we'll just like try to draw, like use all these tricks, okay? So the second one is placing the subject in perspective. It's the same kind of thing what I was talking right in the, I mean, in the previous trick. Now you can start to see what I'm actually doing, right? And just as I said, perspective knowledge is needed for this. Um, Basically, the box, right? There's bigger box that we are placing this figure inside in, right? The animal shape in. That is actually the main source of visualization. It's like, okay, I'm looking this dog from this like top, like from this down shot. So first of all, what you have to do is learn to make this box from this down shot. It's like, okay, I think of boxes like this. Okay, I think of boxes like this. You know, so whatever, you know, whatever kind of box that you're visualizing, then you can start with that animal shape in. Okay. So that's the second step. You know, we can call it the second step. And I also use center lines, as you can all see here. I should have colored it, you know, right here. This is the center line that I'm actually going for. Center line is just like running down like a spine, you know. If you're calling like this view, this will basically be the spine running down sorry, the whole animal, right, from the back. So I'll draw it for you. Yeah. So we have the force animal shape like this. Okay. Now, again, starting with the 2D, always like have this 2D template in front of you. It helps you to visualize like so much of it. Now, for example, I just want to draw this animal for, let's say, from back 3/4 view, right? Something like this. So see what I'm doing, right? I'm trying to bring this animal shape over here. But really in my mind, what also I'm imagining is this, right? This like spine running down, acting as a center line for us to figure out like the two sides of it. You know, it's like this basically. Okay, so I have my one leg coming from here, I have the other leg coming from here, and see like how that center line is actually working, you know, helping me so much. My other, the other arm could come from here, you know, like that. Uh, and you can use this in any angle, even from the down shot. Like, yeah, spine won't be here in the lower section of the animal, but you can still use that center line to know like what kind of trick, what kind of perspective that you're using. So for example, I'm drawing this animal from a down shot now, and see, I can use the center line again to show that depth. Okay, so that's the second trick. The third one is using overlaps. Okay, overlaps is a big thing in order to like create this depth into anything. It's not just in the animals, but in human figures or whatever you can imagine. Like everything in this world could fit in a box, right? I mean, we can imagine it as a box. So once you actually learn to use the overlaps, it will be so easy for you to turn these like things into 3D space, because that is something that takes a lot of visualization. It's like how much, let's say we are drawing a human figure, or let's say we're drawing a leg, just a leg, okay? So it really takes a visualization to think that how short the upper thigh and the thighs would be, and how larger or bigger, or how longer you have to draw like the lower, lower leg, right? In order to like create this kind of depth. So, but overlaps, so important. So here also you can see I'm just using overlaps. Okay, see this one, this box here, like this. Okay, again, there's 3 volumes, and we are just playing with this. We are playing with the second, this is the first, and the third, right? These are the 3 volumes. And see, like the third's front plane is mostly covered up by the second one. Okay. Here, this is more of a 3/4 view, but this is the extreme 3/4, where you can see that almost this third piece is start to hide away, behind the second one. And again, just the perspective is all that we need. So I can say, oh, this is something like this. But again, because we have covered so much about perspective in the previous streams, and not just for the sake of time, I'm just going to leave it here and just tell you that, okay, you need perspective to actually create these volumes, and visualize these volumes in depth. Okay. All right, so those are the 3 tricks. Now let's try to use them, and draw some like really cool dogs in space, right? And these crazy angles as well. So this one, not as crazy angle, but I'll draw those separately by imagination, because I didn't get so much references for the dogs and like extreme perspective. But here, by drawing this reference, I want to show you about the overlap thing that I was talking about. Okay, so first let's trace over the photo itself. How do we use that? Okay, I'm gonna make it bigger, and let's see. So the animal shape, first of all, right? We are drawing this like animal shape here. Okay, so see, that's the first volume that we were going for. Okay, that's the head. Now we got this we got this like whole curve down here, right? The straight and the curve right there. Okay, so see, that's my animal shape. Now what I can do is like I can place this box in here, like this for the rib cage, just like this, and then one for the pelvis. Okay, like that. Again, because we are visualizing this shape, right? This animal shape in perspective, in 3D. So it's not going to be flat anymore, right? It's not going to be just a pointy triangle, let's say the pelvis one. So I'm going to have this like lower face in here. It's going to be doing white. Okay, so something like this. And again, I can just draw the center line, okay, all the way together right here. So that was the animal shape, and we also got those like boxes, okay? And now let's draw it. So it will be like much more clear to you. I'm gonna shrunk this down. Right here. Okay, let's try to draw it. So again, same thing, starting with the animal shape. I'm trying to like give it the volume from the beginning itself, right? Again, see, I'm visualizing this, right? The center line running down from the abdomen. And if you see something off the top, then you can draw a center line there too, right? The dog is like, the head is like more compressing, right? Because he's like running down here. All right. But I'll just like draw it very, very quickly. And see how easy it becomes. Once I actually start to visualize that animal shape in 3D, it becomes super, super easy for me. And then we have the head structure that we'll draw afterwards. Let's give this dog like a great energy. Okay. I'm drawing it. Maybe it's more straight. Yes, something like this, more straightish. And look here, that animal shape is like really working here, like there. So we can tone that in, right? So that's my animal shape. And now we can, I mean, yeah, we have been using it, right? We have been using the boxes that I told you about, right? Right here, all the structure that we are talking about. You can try to put that in. See, that's the bottom plane. This is the side plane, right? Right there. Yeah, I can give it some eyes. Yeah. Maybe make it more something like this. Okay. All right. So, and yeah, tail again. Uh, I'm not gonna forget that. So, one, right? We got one, and again, it's very easy. Yeah, I should not say very easy, but yeah, again, it's easy once you understand it. Okay, like start to visualize that in 3D space. All right. The next trick, we'll try to use the next trick on this dog, which is we'll try to like box it out first and then use the smaller volumes, which is the force animal shape, like those 3 volumes, and like put this inside it. And in the end, we're gonna be drawing the crazy angles, okay, by imagination. So let's do it very quickly. So box it out first, okay. So we have something like this, something like this is happening, right? This have something like this. I think we are seeing a little bit of lower shot of this. Yeah, something like this, right? So we have this like kind of box. All right, so we try to box it out like this way. And we'll try to like put the animal shape within its inside, right? Like this way. Now, these are all the smaller volumes that we were talking about, right? You see the turning edge in there. You see like the pelvis, and you see like a little bit of bottom in there. And just adding the limbs to it, right? Just covering the quick. Again, Sandy's going to be sharing with you the tricks with the limbs and everything, so don't worry, you'll get to know about it. You can put the whole animal, within the box itself, don't worry. Not forgetting the tail for sure. All right, something like that. Giving it a quick face. Something like this. All right, again, you see that perspective that is like going in, okay? Now let's try to now draw from imagination, like some of the crazy angles, like from the lower shot or from the upper shot, things like that. Again, we can use all the tricks that we have learned, So let's say a box, okay, like this, and I'm going to be drawing that animal. Again, let's imagine this, not imagine, but try to understand, right? Like how these 3 things actually work together. And I'm using overlap, see? I know that, okay, this is gonna overlap this part, and how this is like overlapping the pelvis part, Again, I'm using the center line as well, see right there. Okay, and just, yeah, let's add the limb first, and then we'll try to add the face. Now this will be shortened, right? This is called foreshortening. So this part, actually the arm part would be just foreshortened, like all the way. Let's see this. You see the knee, right? It's going to be foreshortened again. You see right there. And the tail. Now we'll try to give it some dog-like features. Something like this. And voila. So this one's a little doggo, not a husky kind of, not a big one. All right, something like this. Now let's try to draw another one from which angle? All right, let's try to draw. Try to use overlaps here, mostly. Again, using the animal shape, like this. Again, like I'm being like really, really crude here, but it's just for the sake of time. See, something like this. Let's try to draw one from, this is not a very crazy angle. Let's try to draw one from a lower shot, like very, very quickly. So again, box it out. Box it out like this. And let's try to draw from this angle. Right, using the center line right here. Then using, again, the arms and the legs. Okay, just adding the arms and the legs to it. Oops. That's not drawing. There. Like this. Something like this. And then also I got like the muzzle and everything right here. You see the lower part of the jaw, right? And some ears right there. So yeah, I would say I would hand it over to Swendi, and these are the tricks, that you can start to visualize that animal shape and like this great space, and that's gonna give your depth drawings a lot of depth. Okay. All right. Hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna hand it over to Swendi now, and
Thank you, Mrityunjay.
yeah, very welcome.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
want to call out one thing that Mrityunjay did very quickly and efficiently, which is draw those boxes, right? So it really shows you the demand of having to understand perspective, right, well enough to take this shape and just throw it in there and understand the form. So you can't really get very far with good draftsmanship unless you get your perspective down, right? So something that I want to just bring to your awareness is how much perspective was actually involved in here. Okay. All right, all yours, Swenley.
yeah, good point about perspective. That's the part that's now it's like athletes or bodybuilders skip leg day, artists tend to skip perspective day.
Right.
All right, so yeah, comparative anatomy, like Mike mentioned at the beginning. Like for me, especially like this page helped me a lot once I read the animal drawing book, because like Mike said at the beginning, animals, like I always wanted to get into it and I did study it in the past, but it was kind of like alien, it was like, it wasn't anything for me to really grasp. So that made it really difficult, to think about it and analyze it. But when you think about it in comparative anatomy, we're comparing the dog anatomy to our human anatomy. It makes it easier to grasp. Not now all of a sudden you have something that you can relate to, and it makes it easy to control. So as you can see here, I would say for me personally, when I draw animals, it helps me to think in terms of like human body parts. For example, I want to be aware that this right here is the thigh, for example. And notice that, zoom in a little bit, and notice that they even have a kneecap. They have an elbow as well. So I'm aware that this is the thigh, and this is the lower leg, and right here we have the ankle, and then this is like the bottom of the foot. It's the foot here, and this is the toes. Now, same for the front legs. I'm aware that, hey, there's a shoulder in here, and there is an upper arm. And here I'm reaching the elbow, and it's like the elbow joints. This is then the forearm. This is the wrist. Then you have the hands. Then you have the fingers right here. So it really helps again to think in those terms. So you don't like forget any part of the legs, because I've seen students struggle with that as well. They just draw and they don't really think about the different parts. And then especially when you have to like distinguish between the three grades, like Mike mentioned in the beginning, you want to be aware of, you know, those parts and the proportions of those parts relative to each other. So the first step for comparative anatomy is to think in terms of human body parts, you know, that will help you and grasp it and understand and control it much better. Let's see, so let's go to number 2. So what I've noticed in teaching animal drawing on Discord is that it was students had a hard time like understanding how the legs worked, you know, once I started to draw the forces. So I realized it might be good to take a step back. And just like we have a tool that we call the gravity guide for drawing humans, which means we draw the torso and the head, and then we just draw sticks for the limbs to understand how they work and help keep the body balanced. I realized it helped to do something similar for animals as well. You know, so before you start your do your force analysis, it really helps to just first of all draw the force animal shape, like that's like Mike said, like the constant. You know, you start with the force animal shape, and then you draw simple sticks, simple angles for the different parts of the legs. You know, like the pelvis is the pelvis and the shoulder blade are very important to keep track of. Let me see, I think I can. Yeah, so it's very important to keep track of the pelvis or the shoulder blade. I would say like the pelvis, it can rotate a little bit, you know, depending on the movement of the torso. But the shoulder blade is very flexible, and it can slide around, go up and down when the animal walks. So you want to understand what's going on with the limbs underneath the skin. You know, that will inform your force analysis later on. You know, so we start with simple angles for the limbs. Again, think in terms of human body parts. You know, you have an angle for the pelvis. And if you notice, once we look at the reference, this will become clearer. But because, again, this is like hard bone structure. So notice that where the pelvis is, you can see like a harder angle being created, you know, at the back of the torso here, you know. So it helps to pay attention to like these hard moments. And depending on the animal, you might see like the landmarks, you know, of the pelvis like sticking out. But pay attention to this angle, like super important and helpful to help you understand what's going on and keep a sense of structure. And then, of course, again, we have the angle for the thigh. You know, it helps to like put a little dots at the joints again, so you don't forget any important part of the animal's limbs. You also have thigh, you have the lower leg, here you have the ankle, here you have the foot, and then you have the toes. You know, notice that they are digitigrade, so they walk on their digits basically. And at the front, we have an angle for the shoulder blades. Again, the shoulder blade can move around, so it helps to keep track of the angle. You know, you have the upper arm bone, you have the forearm, you have the hands, and then you have the fingers. You know, so again, start with force animal shape, and then try to visualize the angles for the limbs. And it helps to like draw animals that are not covered like by a lot of fur, because then it becomes even more difficult, and you really have to be skillful in visualizing the underlying structure, you know, so it doesn't fall apart. So start with animals that are a bit skinnier and more muscular, so that you can really see like the bony landmarks much more easier. Let's see if there's anything else. In terms of structure, I also like to keep track of where the base of the neck is, kind of like the sockets where the neck inserts. You know, again, just like with humans, it's right here on top of the shoulders. You know, and it helps give a sense of structure as well. because once you draw the torso, I usually start at like the front with the angle, then I go into the rib cage, and that flows and connects us into the pelvis at the back, and then here I'm aware of where is like this harder moment created by the pelvis, and this then the socket for the neck, then you have the neck and the head connecting to that, so this is a handy like structural points to keep track of once you're drawing the animal. Now, so start with a force animal shape, simple angles for the limbs, and it helps to just have, if you have the animal drawing book, you can just have this page, next to you, so you can refer to it and helps you visualize the bone structure of the limbs much easier. All right, so another tip is to use wrapping lines at key anatomical points, like, again, a key anatomical point would be, for example, right here. Let me go with red. Let's get rid of this. So here I would add a wrapping line. Now this gives me the socket for the neck. Now, if I'm thinking about volume and form like Mrityunjay showed, I know that the neck cylinder is going to insert in its socket. So I would put it there. For the torso, it depends on what you need. You could add like more wrapping lines in here to help you like keep track of the volume of the form, because before you get into like anatomy, you need to be able to draw a form, and especially like the overall structure of the animal is super important, so I like to add a wrapping line here at the neck. And it also helps once you get to the limbs. Let me zoom in a little bit in here. It also helps to like keep track of, again, the different parts, like for example, here I have the shoulder blade, and right here I can add a wrapping line again to remind myself that this isn't like a paper cutout, this has volume, and then we go into the forearm, I can add a wrapping line right here. So I'm kind of like turning these into like simple forceful cylinders, that I can then easily build on. So this would be the lower arm. I can add wrapping here. So notice that I'm adding the wrapping lines at the joints. It helps me keep track of the lengths of the different parts. Now, so this right here is the wrist. Now, this right here is the hands, and then we have the fingers. Now, this gives you a quick and simple structure, and then, like Mrityunjay showed, you can even find the turning edge. Basically, where are the plane changes? Where do you go from one plane to the next plane? That's the corner of the form. If you compare it to a box, so you would have a turning edge running from top to bottom, and be sure to like pull this through to the whole form, so you have a very clear underlying structure to work with. So we have the socket for the neck, the shoulder blade sticks out on the other side, and be aware that this has volume, this has thickness. Here it goes behind the rib cage. Here we have the forearm sticking out. Again, wrapping line at the joints. And notice here that because of how this is working, we have this going on form-wise. So the wrist joint is kind of like getting wider because this is bending. And then we go into the hands. Then we have the fingers right here. Now at the back is the same. So you want to keep track again of the angle of the pelvis. And you can see how the thigh fits into that. We have the volume for the thigh right here. Like here we have the knee joints. Then this is very compressed, of course. So the lower leg and the thigh share the same joint, of course. They all connect to the knee. So we have another form in here. Here we would have the ankle. Now we have the foot. Notice that the plant of the foot is like flat. Then here would be where the toes start.
I want to say that, you know, one thing that Mrityunjay, I mean, that Swanley brings up here, it's really important, is the planes on the arms and legs, because they're so thin on animals. It's easy to forget that there's, you know, at least two surfaces that you're looking at, a side and a front, or a front and a inside or an outside, or the back and a side. So really, really important to be aware that that turning edge in there, you know, that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I see students make, is go flat on the legs. You know, they get structure in the body, but then they go flat on the legs. You want to make sure that it's solid, no matter how thin it is, even like a deer's leg, right? That you have structure.
Yeah, indeed. As thin as they might appear, you have a clear corner. You know, again, you go from the top plane here to the side plane, and you want to be aware of that these are not just flat shapes. There is form in those shapes. All right, we have a couple of minutes left, so let me do, I think those were the ones. Let me just do a very quick demo here. Actually, I can draw on this layer. Let's get rid of this. So first of all, let's start with the force animal shape. You know, again, I'm starting with, I'm seeing the angle there of the socket for the neck. I can see how the chest is like hanging. Now we have a straight back here, and this drives force into the back. So very fluid connection from here to here. Now here we have a straight again, like Mrityunjay showed earlier. Notice that this has width. So here we start thinking about the box. You know, so this would be the socket for the neck. And if you think about a turning edge, again, relating this to a box, you know, like here we go from the front or the bottom plane in this case to the side plane. So there's where the corner of the form would be. You know, and since we are dealing with like one form, make sure that the turning edge is doing the same thing as the farther edge. You know, if I have an outside edge that is like this and the turning edge is straight, that's going to destroy the illusion of the form. So you want the turning edge to follow the rhythms to give you forceful form. You know, so we have this, we have in this case, the force curve for the neck is still here. So we go from here to here. We have this nice rhythm taking place. So let's keep it to a simple force shape now for the neck. So this is inserting right here. So we have the force animal shape, and again, I'm referring to this little diagram, so I can see the landmarks for the shoulder blades. I'm just going to try to find simple angles. I'm just going to use like simple angles right now, you know, to build this in place. So here are the landmarks that we see, and here I have to pay attention. Like there is an upper arm in here from the front of the shoulder to the elbow, like we see in the diagram. So I need to be aware of this angle, you know. So again, here is where I see, you know, students start to like lose track of what they're doing. Now you need to be aware of the bone structure. So we have the elbows here, then we have the forearm. Here we can see the wrists, you know. So we have the wrist, we have the like palm of the hand, and then we have the fingers right here. Now, same is happening here. Elbow is around there. This is going out. Now we can see like the perspective happening. Now, and notice this pretty much like human legs, right? And again, if you look very closely, you can see like a clear angle there for the pelvis back here. And the thigh joint is around here. Then you have the knee right here. And this is going back into the ankle, and notice how the foot is pretty much planted on the ground plane. Now, and if we project this in space, then the same would be happening on the other side. You know, so we have that. So that means that once we get to the force analysis, we simply have to just keep that in mind, you know, to inform our force analysis. I'm just going to draw it on top for time's sake. So we go from here, and this is all stretching. What I understand what's going on with the limbs. You know, I can use wrapping. And here's the wrist. Let's see, it's all going this way, all the way into the toes. Nice rhythm in here. So again, this all has form. That's the one thing that we don't want to forget. Very quick. This is front to front, pretty much like a human leg again. He's wrapping to quickly get some volume, and here see like the bulkiness of the calf. All right, I see it's time. So hopefully the tips that we gave you guys today helps and makes you realize that drawing animals doesn't have to be that difficult at all. With force, it makes it more easier to understand and control, and even quickly invent animals from imagination.
Yeah, that's a good point. Once you know these these tips and this simpler method it allows you to draw creatures and animals and stuff from imagination.
Yes. Let me stop the share.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I hope that you enjoyed these tips. I think we actually gave you more like 5 or 6 today. So go and have fun, drawing animals, right? Remember the animal shape, how it's been created with its rhythms. Be aware of your perspective and structure. Find those landmarks, and always keep in mind that probably the best way to learn how to draw animals is through human to animal anatomical comparison, right? That you have those two things going on. It always helps to start with something you already know, and you probably know the human body better than you know mammals' bodies. So start there. So thank you, Swanley and Mrityunjay. We will all see you next week for our 100th Force Friday. So we have sort of a special event that the 3 of us will be doing, which you'll probably find out next Thursday or so when we post. So we will see you next Friday. Come join us. It should be interesting. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.